Annie. Good morning.
गणपति बाप्पा मोरया. या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्मच्युतशङ्करः प्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती सरस्वती.
Om Shanti. I hope everybody is fine. Lovely Sunday morning. Today's subject is silent mind. We've got Manisha Didi. We've got Manisha Didi today. But silent mind, what does it mean? They say that if you can conquer your mind, you can conquer the world. In other words, we can become masters of the self. So it is worth taking time each day to see what the state of mind is. It has been said that the difference between prayers and meditation is that prayer is when I talk to God, and meditation is when God talks to me. But for me, to be able to listen to what God is saying, I need to have a silent mind, a quiet mind. Do I allow God to talk to me? Or is it my mind so busy and chattering all the time about this and that I do not give God the chance to speak to me? Silence of the mind is not stopping thinking or suppressing thoughts or making the mind blank. A silent mind is full, not empty. An empty vessel makes the most noise, as they say. A silent mind is not judging, not commenting, criticizing. There are no thoughts of attraction, desires, or attachments. Let me introduce you to Manisha Didi to continue our subject today. Manisha Didi, all yours. Om Shanti.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Om Shanti and Namaste. Good morning to you all. Thank you for being here. And what a wonderful introduction by our dear divine sister. And as she quite aptly said, a silent mind. is a powerful mind. And so the first aspect of looking at this, I thought, let us first look at a noisy mind and see what happens when there is noise in the mind. Well, you know, let's take the example of walking into a room, and you walk into this room and there's clutter everywhere. It's untidy. You know, you can't find what you want. And it's almost like you've heard the expression, I can't think straight. Yeah. And then you have a room which is tidy, organized and neat. And immediately you feel light, you feel in control. You know where everything is. You can sit down peacefully. So similarly, when there's noise, there's chaos and there's peacelessness. And what does that lead to? It leads to poor decision making. It leads to the soul being in a space where the soul reacts and does not respond. It doesn't have that silent space or the capacity to respond. It reacts. It's a space where noise allows the emotions of the soul to run free and overwhelm the soul. So we all know this is not a great place to be in. So how do we move to a space where our mind is internally silent? And first of all, this aspect of a silent mind and this aspect of being in silence. So let's say the first stage of coming into a silent mind is developing what we would call the power of silence. And the power of silence is an important component of meditation. And often in the Brahma Kumaris, if you've done lesson 1 and lesson 2, they will talk about the qualities of the soul and how we must get in touch with the soul. But also they will take you to Nirvana, the abode of God, Paramdam, what we often call the land of silence. And the land of silence is often the abode, often called the abode of God, or sometimes it has many names, some of which I've mentioned. Brahmalok is another one. And this is something that the Buddhists, the sannyasis, the rishis, they had an awareness of. When you look at the sannyasis and they want to do their deep tapasya, traditionally, they don't go into the city where there's traffic, there's people. What did they do? They went out into the jungles and forests. Why? Because they needed to be in that silent, safe space. Similarly, when you look at all the other religions, they all have their own practices. If you go to a convent or a monastery, it's not in the middle of the city. Well, it never used to be. It's out there in the forests. Again, why? Because there is a recognition that in order to do that deep spiritual endeavor, the soul needs to be in a silent place. But here in Raj Yoga, we say, whilst being in the world, whilst living in the family, we create that space within ourselves. So how do we do this? How do we create that space? Well, in Raj Yoga, we say we practice open-eyed meditation. And that's basically a process of calming the mind, calming the thoughts. We say the mind is there to create thoughts. So there can never be a stage where you can say to the mind, don't create thoughts. But what we say is we direct the mind to creating pure, positive, peaceful thoughts. And then allowing the mind, once the mind is settled, we gently take the mind to that special place, that land of silence. And at the beginning of the meditation, you saw an image, and it was an image of an upside down tree of stars in a red space. That you could say is Brahmdam. And if you've been to our centers, you often see what we, a point of light in the midst of red. And so that is what we would call the vision of the soul or the supreme soul. And when we take our mind to this land, we sit quietly and we take our mind, slowly we start to feel that power, because we are now coming close to God. We're coming into the abode of God, and we're experiencing his energy. And as we experience his energy, we allow that energy to come into the soul. And so when you think about your mobile phone, right, you're always conscientious that your phone is charged, right? You're always going to be looking at the battery and thinking, all right, I've got X amount of battery left, I need to charge it. Or some of you regularly have the practice at a certain point in the time, at a certain time of the day, you charge your phone. Why? Because you don't want your phone without battery. Similarly, if we want to inculcate the power of silence in our mind, we also need to charge ourselves with this power of silence. And so in the Brahmakumaris, we have a fixed slot every morning between what we call Brahma Muhurat, the time of Brahma. Usually it's 4 to 4:45 a.m. It can be earlier. And we say that's the time where we sit. It's our time for ourselves, where we meditate and we connect with the divine. And you'll speak to many BKs and they'll swear by it. They'll say when they do this, whatever happens in the day, no matter what, it goes smoothly. They're able to respond. Why? Because the mind has that Shakti. It has that ability to respond. And then when we start to have that practice and we start to experience this and we start to meditate and accumulate the power of silence, the next step is, in accumulating this power of silence, we become closer to the divine. Because we're going into the abode of silence, the land of silence. And we're created that safe space between ourselves and the supreme soul. And at that point, we can listen to him. At that point, you'll notice the mind is creating silent thoughts, but the mind becomes open to this power, to this Shakti. And our relationship with God becomes more deeper. It becomes more subtle. And this is what the meaning of yog or yoga is. Yog means to connect with God. So silence is what you would call next to godliness. It's a very important power of the soul. It's through this power that the soul recognizes itself. It's through this power that the soul is able to forge a relationship with God. It's through this power that gives the soul energy, the spiritual powers. And it's through this power that all the other powers come. The power to tolerate, the power of decision-making, the power of all the other virtues, the power to cooperate, and sometimes the power simply to remain silent. If you've ever been in a space where someone's been in front of you and you just remain calm and silent without reacting. And it's through the power of silence that they say all is the secret key to all the virtues. It's a key to understanding the soul. It's the key to understanding the self. Because in that space, also you listen to yourself. You listen to what is exactly going on inside the mind. And going back to the example of the messy room and the tidy room, when you're in this space and you're meditating in silence, it's an opportunity to clean out that inside room, to clean out what's bubbling inside, what's on the surface of the mind, so that the mind is free from clutter, and that you know what you need to deal with. You can put the past to rest. You can calm those unstable emotions. Silence creates stability. Silence creates calm. And without silence, there can't be any peace. Peace and silence go hand in hand. And then we move into, how does a silent mind work in society? Well, when having this practice on a daily basis, making that safe space for yourself and going to the land of silence, connecting with the divine, connecting with yourself, taking that Shakti, that power, bringing it to back here, and then going about your day-to-day activities, you will find you're operating from a different space. It's almost like you're using that energy of silence. Things, what seem to be difficult, may be easy. You end up missing the bus. No problem. I'll get another one. No stress. You're dealing with a difficult relationship. Instead of getting caught up into the karma and the bondage of that relationship, you're able to step back because you've got that energy to reflect and think, what virtue is it? And because the slate of the mind is clean, going back to that clean room where you know everything, because through the power of silence, the mind is orderly, you're able to find the right virtue. I need to be generous. I need to be kind. I need to be compassionate. The silent mind harnesses this. The silent mind steers the soul to positive karma, positive karmic interactions. So I think I've spoken. I've given you like a taste of the silent mind and some of the benefits. But to really experience it, why don't we have a short meditation? Why don't we go and we dive deep into the realm of silence, connect with ourselves, connect with the divine, and draw more on this power? So make yourselves comfortable. Sit in a relaxed posture. Allow the mind to settle. If there are thoughts in the mind, that's fine. Just allow those thoughts to pass through like a ship sailing by. Let the thoughts sail by. And slowly, slowly relax the body. You can keep your eyes closed or you can keep them open. If you keep them open, focus on an item or something ahead of you and just maintain the eyes there. And journey inwards. Journey inwards. Go inside the mind. If you want to visualize yourself traveling upwards. Visualize yourself moving upwards, flying above your room, flying above your city, moving upwards, flying into the clouds, moving upwards, going beyond this planet into space. You travel through space and you pass by the galaxy. You go beyond the galaxy and you keep going until slowly you come into a realm of red light, complete, soft, red light. And there lies ahead of you is a sparkling diamond star. You move towards this star. And as you move towards this star, you feel the rays. You feel yourself immersed, emerged in the rays of golden light. And this shining, sparkling point of light beckons you to him. And you stay there. And you experience being still. You experience being suspended. You experience rays of peace, rays of pure spiritual power. You experience pin drop silence. Let yourself stay there and let yourself experience the communion with the divine. Open your third eye and allow the divine to meet you. This is the language of silence, where the soul speaks to the Supreme Soul. And the soul feels itself at home. Feels rays of purity, rays of peace, in the realm of silence. And here, in this safe, silent realm, world, if there's anything you need to put in front of the divine, any thoughts, feelings, emotions you would like to surrender, you simply allow those thoughts to pass through and surrender in front of the divine. Surrender those thoughts so that they no longer become a burden to you. And in exchange for surrendering those thoughts, let the divine fill you with his power and powers and his virtues to fill yourself. When you feel that you have had your power, your soul refreshed, recharged, rejuvenated, that you have accumulated the power of silence within you to take back, gently make your way back into space, into the galaxy, back to the planet, back to the city where your physical body lives. Back to the room where you are. I'll give you all a few minutes.
That was just amazing. I was gone. I was just gone into that beautiful orange light everywhere, flickering here and there, and I was engrossed in that.
So was I. I was gone as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's your birthright. I was simply sharing with you. That's your birthright. Every soul has the right to know their father. And every soul, that is the home of every soul. So what were we doing? We were going home. Home, sweet home.
Oh.
We were going home. And home is where you recharge, right? Because we live in a physical world. And in this physical world, we're bound by the law of matter. So we get tired. This world has its limitations, which we know of. But when we go to that world is unlimited. And when we take our consciousness into that world, we're going into an unlimited consciousness, a consciousness beyond limits. And we are connecting with our Supreme Father. Now, who can heal us besides him? No one can. So, going back to how you always conscientiously, and we all do this, we kind of like, no, we have to charge our mobile phone so we can use it. Let us have that discipline and also that drive and that love to, take care of ourselves and say, once a day, wherever, in the morning, in the evening, whichever is convenient, you take time out for the self and you go and you connect with yourself, you connect with the divine, you surrender what you want to surrender, all that clutter and chaos, whatever's creating chaos inside your head, you surrender it there and you take the power. And the thing with the power of silence is the gateway to all the other powers. If you have the power of silence, you can cooperate, you can tolerate, you can pack up, you can face. So all the other powers are merged. With the power of silence, most importantly, is the power to make decisions. Now, I'm sure all of you're multitaskers, your mothers, your wives, your daughters, you're playing multiple roles. You've got multiple things to do in a day. You've got loads of decisions to make. And how is it that you're able to make the right decision at the right time, use the right power, have the right virtue? When the mind is silent, when the mind is clean and clear, it just comes to the surface. It's going back to that tidy and organized room. And I'm sure you all have tidy and organized rooms and you know where everything is. So I'll leave it to you. Any questions?
I think I would agree. To start with, you said, declutter the house, declutter everything, whatever you possess. And that is a big start to declutter your mind as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here in the UK, you get books on how to declutter your house. It's a big topic now. Any other questions or any other sharings? Does anyone want to share what they experienced?
I believe that images that come to mind when I thinking of silence is a calm, like a lake that has not even one ripple on the surface, and yet it's deep and powerful.
Yeah.
And to achieve this state of mind, I need to go into essence of being just me. I am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Connecting with the self.
Yes.
Connecting.
Being on this platform, I think majority of us are already halfway. So it's now a question of making that decision that every day, 5-10 minutes, I want to go back home and be at peace.
Yeah. It's like being of
True.
peace. I
Being our true self.
am silent. My religion is peace. I am a child of the ocean of peace and a resident of the land of the peace. So the consciousness of being a soul cools the sense and sense organs. And when I am in soul consciousness, the mind is calm and the body is cool.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
Unmute Manorama Ben first.
When two people are arguing, Didi, and one keeps quiet, is that a sign of silent mind?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Well, you definitely have passed.
Yeah.
So, but when you have that power, that wisdom and understanding that the reason why I'm being silent is because I don't want to increase what this negative karmic account, and you have that wisdom, then you have first is the power of silence, then is the power of tolerance, and is the power to face.
Very true.
But it's good that you're quiet. But if you're quiet, but the aim is to be flying through it, to keep the mind happy and think, wow, I'm being silent. I know I'm settling this karmic account. You know? So you imagine when you argue and you step away from that argument, you feel negative and you feel horrible. But when you're silent and you let the other person in front of you has no impact on you, you're there and you're in your silence. And sometimes you can physically, whilst being in front of anyone, anywhere, any situation, you can even go into silence. That's why we practice open-eyed meditation. Why? Because okay, in the beginning, you have your space, you have your meditation room, but the aim is if you're on the bus, you're as you're walking, moving, you can take 1 or 2 minutes and just go into silence and just connect with yourself.
But it's a bit difficult to do it.
Bit difficult.
Just like that.
It is a bit difficult.
So, when I said earlier, in the day, make time, right? So let's give an example. I'm sure of you, you do something on a daily basis. Like how many of you drive, okay? And you'll see people who drive in the beginning, they're very conscientious of when they put brake, when they put on the clutch. But after a while, driving becomes autopilot. They're not, they're not conscious of when they're moving. They just do it because it's it's become a habit. And so as human beings, we are also creatures of habit. So the way you start is in a day, you take out your time, your 15 minutes, your 20 minutes, half an hour, or you can even do it multiple times, and you develop this practice of silence. And as you do it, and you do it for 6 months, a year, you'll just step into it. If you do it over a long period of time, you won't even need to think, okay, I need to sit down, let me have these thoughts. You'll just go into it like that. And as you have this practice, like any habit, you can take this practice wherever you are. But you're right, in the beginning, you do need to kind of be conscientious and you do need to create that space.
True.
I know not everyone, we all have our day-to-day commitments. And they say here that we should at least aim to have 8 hours of yoga a day. So how many of us can take time out for 8 hours? Okay, we can do it for 1 hour, 2 hours, another hour in the evening, but 8 hours. So when we looked at how our daddies operated, they would have someone in front of them and they had many challenges, but within the click of a finger, they would just be able to go into silence and have the inspiration and the power that they needed. And they, at the end, when you looked at our Daddy Janki, she was managing the whole of the Brahma Kumaris. I mean, if you've been to Mount Abu, you see we've got a massive operation there, and she had many things to do in a day, and yet she maintained that practice of silence. And so when I speak to the sisters around her, they would often say, they would see she would just momentarily take a few seconds or a minute out and just connect with herself and then come back. And so, we don't often have the luxury of going to a meditation room in that moment, but with a regular practice of meditation, because it's the mind, you just press that button of the mind and you connect with yourself. And as I said, here in this world, we have limitations, we have the limit of time. But when you go into the soul world, there is no time, there is no limitation. So even when you connect with yourself, you go to the land of silence, even if it's for like 10 seconds, those 10 seconds can be invaluable.
Mm.
I believe silence offers opportunities for self-reflection and daydreaming,
Absolutely.
which activates multiple parts of the brain.
It does.
Yes, it also gives us time to turn down the inner noise and increase awareness of what matters most. And it cultivates mindfulness, recognition, appreciation of the present moment.
Yeah, and as I was reflecting upon the power of silence, I kind of thought this is cyclical. I know this is a really big analogy of the neat and tidy room, but as the more we practice silence, the more we clean out not just our conscious mind, but even our subconscious mind, because the more we start to we connect with ourselves, we get to know ourselves, what's really going on, our feelings, our emotions, our prejudices, our likes, our dislikes. And the more we get to know ourselves, the more we start to clean out our internal world. And our internal world, I'm referring to the conscious mind, the subconscious mind. And as we start to do that, you find, we spoke about relationships not reacting, but the whole sphere of relationships slowly starts to come into order. Our ability to make decisions gets better. We make more accurate decisions. We don't need so much time to make a decision. So the impact on our lives is better. And so it's cyclical. The more you practice, the more your life, your internal world becomes clean, clear, orderly, and less cluttered, full of past issues, past relationships, past emotions. That then spills over into our outside world, because our outside world reflects the inner world. So our outside world and our outside relationships, they too will become a reflection of what's going on inside.
Yes. You need to ask yourself, what are you thinking?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, you got to think of yourself and pose the conversation and the question of being on feeling of panic.
Yes, that's true. And I think also the feeling of being confused, stressed. Stress is a big one. Yeah. And even panicking. So if the soul is in a stage where it's making its decisions in the right way and in the accurate way, automatically there's a whole level of scenarios that will not come in front. Stress, the soul becomes more receptive to when it's even getting stressed. Even the recognition that if I do this, this is going to stress me out. Let me not do it like this. So panicking. So there is this, we can't control our outside world, but we can control our response to it. And sometimes just being in a position where you don't panic and you don't react. But what I mentioned earlier, and I really think this is really like the prize, is we begin to feel lighter. You've done something right when you say to yourself, previously I was really heavy, I was really disturbed, and now I'm light, now I'm easy. So the sister mentioned, what do you do if someone in front of you is arguing and you keep silent? That is great. But if you keep silent and you are not impacted by the person opposite, You maintain a light, easy, you maintain your positive peace of mind. That is what we would say. You've not just been there, you've flown over it. The impact or the obstacle that was there in front of you, you didn't bash into that obstacle, you flew over it. And how did you fly over it? You flew over it with your mind, with the silent space of your mind. You were able, and so you didn't get caught up in that obstacle. The mind didn't get stuck in that obstacle.
But always, once you've gone over that, 3 days later, it hits you.
Yeah.
It starts making you wonder, thinking, why didn't I speak? I should have said that. But then I calm myself down, thinking, no, let it be, let it be. That's it.
Are you referring to a situation where you're in a situation where you didn't say anything, and then you felt
Like
that
you, because
you should have said something?
yeah, I do practice myself by saying nothing and just listen to it, be calm, and come over it.
We talk about the powers. Silence is a power. It's not a blueprint to behave. It's not a behavior, it's a power.
Yeah.
So each situation is dependent on the map of our own karma. And only the soul knows what the right way to respond is. But what happened in the state of mind at the moment when I spoke about noise and clutter, it's like almost the mind is not sure, do I do this, do I do that? And with behaviors and habits, if, for example, I'm a person, I'm used to speaking my mind and it's second nature to me, I have the habit of talking back. For me, saying silent is going to be really difficult because, as I mentioned, that habitual way of thinking is there and I have to undo that habit. If I am a soul, I'm always silent, always. I have the habit of just being quiet, then the opposite is going to be my challenge. And how I need to move through and resolve that karma is maybe not being in silent, but maybe being able to speak up for myself. But only the soul, when it gets into the space, when it quietens the mind, when it incorporates the power of silence in the mind, and it's able to declutter, and only the soul knows the map of its own karma, can it build the resolve and the courage of what's the right course of action for that soul. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. We'll be done by 10. Yeah. So, yeah, sorry, that was just a sister that came in. So it's not about saying you have to behave like this, we have to behave like that. I spoke about powers and virtues. We want to kind of face what we need to face with powers and virtues and wisdom and understanding. So going back to your example of why did I do this? Why did I do that? Well, sit in silence over it and ask yourself, why am I questioning what I'm doing? And what would happen if I did speak up? And if I do speak up, am I reacting or am I responding? Sometimes if you're so used to reacting in an emotional way, the challenge is saying something, but saying it with pure, positive, peaceful thoughts, saying it with good feelings and good wishes for that soul.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think
Shall we finish off
that's
with
it.
5 minutes of meditation?
Why not?
Pannaben, you can come back into this.
Shanti. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
Shanti, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful session. Thank you.
You.
Thank you so much. It's really
Thank you. Om
good.
Shanti.
Thank you, Didi.
Om
Thank
Shanti
you. Om
Didi. Thank you, Panna Ben.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Pannaben.
Thank you, Pannaben.
Thank
Om
you.
Shanti. Thank you,
Om
Didi.
Shanti, everybody. Om Shanti.